taxes, we won't have to make the big cuts. And so the more people we bring into the tax base, the better off we'll be, and we won't have to face the re-election issues. That's what it's about.
The
You know
flawed
what?
thinking
And that's
there
because
is
we
not
have
jobs.
workers who are not willing to stand up and make the tough decisions because you're exactly right. They're worried about re-election. I'm tired of people in Congress worried about their re-election and not worried about my future. You.
To
But
follow
who's
up
gonna
on
be
what,
voting for the
Actually,
term limits?
term limits won't fix the problem
Who's
because
gonna vote for that?
it isn't really, as you can see with the IRS, it isn't really the people that you elect. It's because you can set a term limit for the people who are our representatives, but you don't set let me put it this way. We've seen, when you see an enforcement agency has a scandal about something they may have done wrong, what happens? They all get suspended with or without pay while they investigate? How many people of those people at the IRS have been suspended? None. Because the problem is in your bureaucracy. As long as the people who have permanent control of the regulations have no, please, I'm sorry. As long as they have no term limits, then you will never be free of them.
That's the
So-
fourth branch of government.
So the thing is that the bureaucracy, what we need is to curtail their ability to have permanent jobs.
And that's where we have to get into the point where we start eliminating all of these departments and bureaucracies that have no foundation or basis or authority within the Constitution. That's where it needs to go. So anyway,
It's not just.
real quick.
they'll have to go get a job that pays.
Yeah, but I ran across a quote from Ronald Reagan today. If the best minds are not in government, because if they were, the private sector would hire them away. So anyway, one final thing I want to leave you with, and then I'll give it back to Randy. We look at these immigration laws and everything else that's going on, and we talk about the government. What scares me and worries me, the government is not this machine. We talk about the government as though it is. It's not a robot. It's not Data from Star Trek. If it's going to be a robot, I want it to be that robot from Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robertson, danger. All right, those of you that are laughing, you're showing two things. One, you're like me, you're showing your age, and two, you're showing, like I did, bad taste in what you watch on TV.
Will you quit making fun of us?
But,
Actually, it was Robinson.
Robinson, yeah.
I don't know why I know so much.
That's not good.
Oh dear, now you're really trying to get killed.
Yeah.
But anyway, think about it. The government is our fellow citizens. And I was thinking about this today as I'm on a ladder painting my house. Who is it that is combing through my phone records, my emails? Who is it that would want to go to work at the Data Fusion Center in Utah? Who is it that wants to do this? Our fellow citizens. Is that not scary? It's us. And now we can understand. We look at Nazi Germany and we wonder, how could somebody turn their neighbor, their children's doctor, their favorite shopkeeper, over to the Gestapo just because they were Jewish? Or because they said something anti-Hitler? How could your neighbors and friends do that? Now we can see how. Because it is not necessarily personally, but it is our neighbors, our friends, our fellow Americans who are manning these positions that are doing these very things. And that's where we go back again to education. We have got to educate people on liberty, freedom, the Constitution, and the concept of liberty government. That's our challenge. And that's why we need to have this room packed with standing room only all the way around the walls. So we can educate people if this is what we need to do.
Take back the schools and the textbooks.
I wanted to respond to your remarks about the IRS and their ability to get into our weeds. That was the point of my remark earlier, that any time you have an agency that has the authority to question everything you spend and require that you report all of this detail. Now you would find that's the reason I'm in favor of the fair tax, so the IRS has only 50 people called states to collect from, and you just pay your
Did you
sales
say the
tax.
fair tax or the flat tax?
Fair.
Excuse me? Not a flat. Flat could be changed by the following Congress. Since no Congress
Because I
can,
thought fair tax was Obama's idea.
no, fair tax is retail sales tax only. They refund the amount of tax you would pay to all U.S. citizens that you would pay on poverty level, so that in effect, poverty level is tax-free. But above that level, everybody pays exactly the same tax when they buy something at a retail level. And it replaces Social Security, all of the various and sundry federal taxes. And it gets the IRS out of your weeds.
The book about it is still available. It is called The Fair Tax Book, and it is by Neil Bortz, and it is still available in your better bookstores. Or you can order it on Amazon, and it explains it all perfectly.
Okay, now we're gonna start talking about, we talked about all these bad things, now we're gonna start talking about what we can do about them, okay? And this is gonna start out, we have a political action committee, and Keith Lennon is our treasurer. And he's gonna talk about that a little bit, and at the same time, we're gonna pass a hat. Now, we need money to do some of these things. We take $100 bills. And if we don't get enough when we pass it the first time, I'm gonna pass it again, so get your
He's a Methodist. That sounds more like a
That's a bad
We have a pack. It's about not quite a year old. Has just over $3,000 in it. Basically 6 people have been the sole donors to it so far. We are not a 504. And that was a decision we made a while ago. Mostly because I didn't want to fill out the application.
Yeah,
I thought it was intrusive, illegal, and I told them so.
the IRS would have stopped you.
And they said, we don't care.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, well, basically we did. We had talked to Waco, we had talked to North Tarrant County, we had talked to one in Kansas City, and they're all telling us the same thing. It's going to take you 9 months to 2 years to get it, and why bother? I'll fill out the controller's report once a year. It says I have no sales tax, and then I'm on the IRS. And then I'll have to file a income tax return, but basically for that, it's like a postage card. So I'll do that, rather than go through the ordeal of putting up with that. So, long and short of it is we have a pack, sort of. Number one, it's not being supported very well. And number two, we really haven't decided what to do with it. We will talk a little bit later about what we're going to do as far as supporting candidates and or supporting bills or going against bills. Penny's going to talk a little bit about what she's been doing, how we can support it with the PAC. Technically, we cannot support a candidate, but we can support issues that highlight their indiscretions, bills they have voted on, things like that, which is what we're going to do with Jim Pitts and a few others. So, your names are not recorded at the IRS if you give to the PAC. The only place they're recorded is Texas Ethics Commission. It is public record though. If you give more than $100 in any 1 year, your name is going to be reported. But who really wants to go after it?
So mine's there.
Yes, even if it's, well, yeah, if you give me cash or give us cash, then it just goes in as a lump sum. And they can't track it.
The 501Cs, they can't require you to give the donor list if it's it's under 5,000.
501c4s,
Yes. on
not the
the-
C3s.
Right.
C3s we need to
You still have to report it to the State Ethics Commission, and it is there.
That's non-cash, so is that correct? If I come up, theoretically, an individual comes up and gives you $5,100 bills with no names, no documentation, that is unrecordable.
Technically, I'm required to ask you to give that information. If we put a jar in the back,
I refuse to give you
if we
information.
put a jar in the back of the room and I don't know where it came from, we can do that.
Let's try it.
I'll be looking for your money here soon. What we want to do is really get into a campaign of actually going to Austin, supporting those kind of functions where the PAC can pick up some of the tab. So you're not floating the boat for everything. As we've said, as a nonprofit, it's 3 things that we expect from people. We realize everybody can't do them all. Time, tithe, and talent. We want your time, we want your money, and we want your talents. You do 2 of the 3, great. You do 1 of the 3, that's great too. But we don't want spectators. We want people that are going to be active and then help us. Okay? And I will tell you, as a good example, and you can confirm this, we have been after Mr. Cornyn for the last week and a half. And his amendment to the immigration bill has changed dramatically
Yeah, he was on a talk show talking about it.
over the last 10 days.
Does it mean he's catching on?
In our direction?
He is catching on. And in fact, the most recent version of it has split the Gang of 8 right down the middle.
Good.
And it's probably not going to pass in its current form. But the people in Cornyn's offices are telling us they are being deluged with the kind of emails and phone calls that we have been doing. And that's all that it takes.
Is the gang of 7 now?
No, actually, some of the even conservatives are being split off. So we're getting away from the PAC. What the PAC is designed to do is whatever you want it to do with it. We have not decided what to do with it, but there's only $3,000 in there. We're coming into campaign season, and we've still got, 30, 40 days to go in the special session, end of the month, and maybe into July if it goes into some other things. So,
Keith, what specifically do we have in mind right now? And using whatever amount will come.
well, initially we were gonna do billboards, highlighting some of the bills that Mr. Pitts has sponsored, voted for, that he doesn't acknowledge in public.
Can you say Joe Strauss?
He is Joe Strauss's pet on the budget, things like that. Same thing with Joe Biden or any other candidate that we choose to highlight what they've been doing. And those are fairly easy things that we can do. We already have editorial groups that, we get in pretty regular editorials. Frank's are always in, Bill's are in, mine are in, often Linda Bounds. We're getting letters to the editor, but we need more of them because people read them. You'll be surprised how much they read them. But that doesn't go to the PAC. That's a totally different subject. We need to decide here soon. We don't need to do it tonight. What are we going to do with the PAC? My feeling right now is we start to support some of the trip stops and things like that. Go ahead.
Please be specific about the PAC's, I guess, geographical standing. Is this an Ellis County Tea Party
This is
PAC?
the Ellis County Constitutional PAC.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
That this is the group, it's representing geographically Ellis County.
The only things it's done so far is it's bought all the constitutions for the last year that we hand out at different parades and things like that, different events. It has paid some of the entry fees to the different events we go to. So the only thing that the money you give us here for the Tea Party goes to supporting Tea Party issues, meaning the room rent, the website, all those kind of things. The money that the PAC has earned, taken in the last basically a year, has gone to buying, again, constitutions, entry fees to different things. But we've only got $3,000. Our goal was $10,000 by November, where we could really do some good, putting some ads out, make Mr. Pitts really run hard again, and actually highlight some of the things that they're doing that the general community doesn't see. They don't know how bad his voting record is.
You got a question over there.
Go ahead.
Can I suggest something?
Sure.
I'm a guest, so could I just?
Yeah, so does everybody else.
We have no formal leadership or
You're as important as anyone here. Go ahead.
I'm Jackie King, I'm from Navarro County, and I helped Bobby Vickery run against Byron Cook, and we lost.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why, and Bobby ran hard and spent a chunk of his money. We had a hard time raising money to run against him. And Byron's funds had over $500,000 in it, and we caused him to spend a chunk of it, but it wasn't good enough. And so Byron got back in the legislature. If I turn red, I always do when I start talking about stuff. And I said, it's not money that's going to win an election.
It's both.
But hang with me here. So I said, what if you don't have money? Don't you still have a right to hold office if you're intelligent, if you know the issues? And these next two qualifications for future leaders is going to be moral compass and be a fiscal conservative. If you don't have a moral compass, you're going to be blackmailed when you hit office. They will uncover everything rude about you. And you will want to maintain your vision of civility. And you will succumb and you will compromise. But during these times, we can't afford to do that. I believe what Hannity said is that the majority of Americans want to be fiscal conservatives and do what's right and roll back big government. And there was something you said, Mr. Kutcher, darn, it was a point that was really important. But what I want to suggest is that I think Bobby could have won, and it wasn't because he had more money. It was that we should have done things differently. I watched a movie, y'all might watch it, called Amazing Grace, and at the very end, this lawyer comes back from the islands and suggests to the people who were against the slave trade, he suggested to them something in Latin, and they said, what does that mean? He said, we cheat. And I'm not suggesting to cheat, because what they did ultimately in that movie was not cheat. Everything they did was legal, but it was outside the box. And so the slave trade creator, you've got to watch the movie, I don't want to go into it. There's another homemade movie out there called Agenda. It was by Mr. Bowers, 2010, at a San Antonio Christian conference. And it lays out the agenda. And the agenda is not clandestine. It's right out in the open. And it starts out with Marx and Lenin and all these other people who want to destroy us from within. And ultimately it goes up and he talks about the education system and our economic system and all the other sections that are crippling us. But I picture our government and our nation as if it was an automobile. So there's the tires, there's the rack and pinion, there's the engines, there's the combustion system, seating, steering, everything. But each is a part, just like an agenda. And I think that if we concentrate on, I see these parts being pulled together by the people behind Obama. And so they're all about to complete their assigned task. If we can keep one of those parts from becoming fully functional, the full impact of the engine cannot go forward. So, first of all, I want to tell you, I see people worried and afraid, and I've been there. And I'm going to ask you, do not fear. Now that comes from Yahweh, do not fear. We will become light in the midst of darkness, so we cannot fear. So, cripple one of the segments, not all of them, one. Act locally and replace your people. Now, the PAC, I'll get back finally. The PAC could be used to make sure that the people in this county communicate to the people in this county, and in Pitts's district. You can be used to communicate not just one of his poor decisions, but all of them from the day that he got back into office. That's my intention with Byron Cook. I'm going to go back to the beginning of this particular elected period, and I am going to make sure that the people in his district do not forget, and they're already forgetting. So this is how Byron works. He goes out and he rah-rahs and spends a lot of money and does one project. Then he heads for Austin, and then he does all these heinous crimes. And then at the end, toward election time, he goes out to all the volunteer fire departments and all of the expos and buys the biggest calf he can find and pays the most money so he can get all the points in the picture. I know funds are limited with everybody, but don't we have the right to elect a conservative individual? Yes, we do. So I'm saying don't spend money. Communicate. One more thing. Don't spend money on the media. Do not buy billboards. Do not buy pins. Do not buy t-shirts. Do not buy bumper stickers. I want you to start working underground and start communicating. And people that want to run for office, you need to start today and start visiting everyone in your county. It's a different game, and I think you can do it because I plan to do it in Navarro. Thanks.
Jim Pitts spent over $300,000 to get his office. Where do you think the money came from?
Donors.
Yeah.
Outside the district.
Look at his donor base.
How much did he raise?
I wasn't sure. I looked at his donor base. He's
Over $1 million.
Yeah.
Byron Cook's donor base, 95% came from without his district.
And so did
Yeah, 97.
So let's get back to the PAC. The PAC should be used, we have decided to use the PAC for local, state issues because that's where we can have the most effect, because I think everybody in the state has agreed, so goes Texas, so goes the country. And what went on in this last legislature, Penny and I will talk about it a little bit, is almost criminal, some of the stuff that was going on down there. But when you get into Jim Pitts' office, he will back down. He will respond. I'm after his chief of staff weekly, sometimes daily. But the PAC can support all that. But it needs money, and we need to rent the buses, we need to do those things if that's what we choose to do. We can do billboards. Those billboards embarrass the heck out of them if done right.
Explain, rent the buses.
What we're thinking of doing is taking a number of people down all at once, so you don't have to try and find your way by yourselves. I've been down once, a number of us have been down, Penny's been down a lot. But when you go down there and you spend the day, it's only 2 hours down, 2 hours back. The way I drive anyway. You can get there, and you get there, you can have a real effect of you. You see them and they will see you, and that will back them down and push them. Just look at what's just happened with Corning. And it's just letters and phone calls. And if you get in front of them, and you get in front of his people, you have a huge effect. And that's what we would like to do with the PAC. We're going to keep it local, we're going to keep it focused, and it's going to be primarily on state, some county issues. But we can do that, and it's all legal. We are registered as a non-profit association in the state of Texas. If the IRS wants to come after me, so be it. I fought them 6 times. And they audited me this last, for expenses they've been approving for years. So I knew we were attacked. And we're being attacked. But if you stand up to them, and I did, then you'll win. But going forward, don't want to belabor this point. We've got to either raise money for the PAC, or we've got to disband it and do something else. And we can do it through the Tea Party, We can do it a lot of different ways. The Tea Party is a 501c3, and the PAC is a 501c4. The PAC has a lot more leeway. Yeah.
Recommendation, how about whenever we pass the hat here, the Tea Party just keep what is the bare necessity for the building and whatnot, and then everything else goes to the PAC?
That's up to y'all.
I'm with
That's
that.
a decision from the Tea Party to do it that way.
That's kind of what we've done.
Well, basically what we've done, if you write me a check, it goes to the PAC. If you give me cash, it's been going to the Tea Party. Now, the Tea Party doesn't have a lot of money either. I mean, we've got $359, actually less than that. We have to pay the room tonight, we have to pay for the website, so we're down to probably $230, something in that range. So we've never had a lot of money, which we shouldn't. We should be spending it and using it for political action. We won't tell the IRS that, but that's what we do.
If that changes anybody's mind about wanting to contribute more or not, I'll be happy to bring his head around.
I'm gonna echo Jackie.
And I agree with him totally
The-
about infrastructure underway.
The thing is that it's not really about groups trying to stop us. It's apathy. I'm gonna give you two, in my mind, you see all the stuff about zombie apocalypse.
It's both.
but that was
Have you been to
November.
Austin? Have you been to Austin? It's
Yes,
both.
yes. But what I wanted to do, just allow me.
Yeah.
Waxahachie has 30,000 citizens. The city council election last month, less than 600 people voted. So the problem is the apathy and zombieism, okay? Because you have a lot of people who may agree with you, but they don't feel like they can do anything. But if you tell them that only 600 people voted, right? There's 3 positions. I mean, there was 3 people running. The third person got 123 votes. The second person got 140-something votes. So the people in this room could have swayed the election for that one election. Okay? So, like she said, spending the money on the advertisements, on all that might not be the best way to go. It might be a better route of going and talking to people individually. I think I'm a real estate agent. I spend a lot of time in trying to find the best way to market, okay? And everybody wants to get a website, but that's like saying you have a phone, but nobody knows your phone number, okay? You can put money out on those billboards, and that's probably your best thing. But T-shirts and all of that other stuff, the paraphernalia, no, that's just...
No, we quit doing that, but the billboards that we used to do were highly effective for
Right.
driving.
Billboards are very good
But
because
they're
people
expensive.
drive by and it reminds them. Because you need to have something in front of somebody at least 9 times before they even remember it.
I brought a man with me. Everyone wants to bring somebody with a double in size next month. You want to double people? Ask your friends and your neighbors to come. That's what it's going to take, doubling up.
So do we have a consensus on the PAC at all? As far as what we do, where we go from here? We can think about it and hit it again in July or whatever you want to do. But, come the fall.
I just spent an hour or two before I came down here as a member of the Midlothian City Library Board, going door to door. It's complicated. Nobody wants to be involved. I mean, it is very complicated in how you try to educate people, and it has to be a multi-level process unless you can create a condition where they are focused or caring, because everybody's busy and they don't want you getting in their way. So I like the idea of the PAC, I like the idea of focusing it, and, you know, obviously being judicial with where we get the best bang for the buck.
Yes.
I agree, it's complicated, and people are busy. And I saw, a lady run for our commissioner's court and wore out several pairs of tennis shoes, literally walking door to door in Rivera County. She ran a very close race, almost won, almost. So, if billboards can be, if they're pushing the right candidate for the right, you know, so that they're expensive.
Well, we can't push candidates.
Oh, okay.
What we can do
Issues.
is highlight
Nobody can tell
issues.
people
We can
issues.
ask them why they voted for a certain thing, or, you know, we can do those kinds of things, basic education.
Tell them about conservatism. What would an increase in so much percentage of tax, how would it impact their pockets?
Well, the question you've got to really is, what's the focus of the PAC? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're just trying to educate people, that's one thing. If you're trying to get other people elected other than the incumbents, that's another. We need different approaches for different, and if we've got enough money, we can do both. But
He went to perfect strangers. I'm saying if I went, I mean, like you did, you brought a friend, right? No, but if you had brought two friends, or if you spoke to your friends that you know personally, and tell them all the issues, because they're going to give you the time of day. Don't go to a stranger.
Right.
Now, ask those two people, like a penny that's compounded daily, it's worth a fortune in a few months, or whatever, a year. Do the same thing with your friends.
Right, what he did was warm calls, and what he did was cold calls.
Okay.
So,
But that doesn't get to what do we do with the PAC?
Well, it means that you refer them to the website that has all the issues, that tells all the positive stuff that this person's gonna do for you. You know, what are his intentions? What is he gonna do for you? And you hold him accountable. When he gets into office, then that website is gonna say, here are all the good things. If he screws up, here's all the bad things, we need a replacement. And that's where we send the people that we talk to go look, so we don't forget.
Well, and TJ will be able to tell you this, anybody else that's run for office before, you have to go get the people that are never gonna hear about you in the first place. You gotta tell them the issues, that's who you're educating. There's no point in you talking to each other about the issues because you already know them. You gotta get the new people. You may not be welcome at some places, but you're gonna be welcome in a lot of places. TJ wouldn't have had the success he had if walking door to door. That's what got him the votes he spent a lot of work. And when you visit these houses, spend money to leave them some literature. What you say, they're not gonna remember most of the time. Push the website. The website is useless if people don't know about it. I focus the money on where you're spending your time as far as the PAC monies. Put the time in with it.
Plus, the PAC was originally formed to do the things and make the statements that the candidates didn't necessarily want to do. They want to promote a positive image of themselves and not spend all day beating down their incumbent. People don't like that. The PAC could do that, but we just have to decide that's what we're going to do.
probably focus at the county level rather than the state level, because if you get the county commissioners on your side, then they will have the clout to go to the state representatives and get what you want.
So far, we haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
We had to censure.
Well, but you see, I would go after the county positions first to build up to.
Which we're doing.
And I would not
We're doing.
really focus on going at the state at all.
I think you have to do both. You have to put pressure on people like Jim Pitts, who, let's face it, he is Joe Strauss's lackey. He plays games with the budget. You know, they raided $4 billion out of the rainy day fund just to patch up what they did this last time.
Well,
in the last
this
time.
is a guerrilla army, and you're trying to take on a fortified position. So what you want to do is go after the small positions, okay? Like in real estate, well, I'm just
I would say you do both.
well,
because
let me just explain why.
Well, we've been doing that. You need to realize, we helped Paul Perry get in office. We help TJ.
We have Dan Davis.
We have Dan Davis at the Republican Party. The Republican Party is controlled by Tea Party people now. And we've been going at it underneath. But you have to do, in my mind, you still have to do both.
There's no doubt in my mind that this Tea Party, the people in the activists in this county, the people who care about freedom and liberty, know what the goal is. Because Keith's right, we've taken over the Republican Party. We've gone as low level as you can get in the electoral process, and we've taken it over. We ran our county convention. When you look at the state level, what other Tea Parties across Texas have done, when our delegation went to the national convention, and John Boehner did his bulldozer over the people, over the votes. The Texas delegation was the loudest delegation, and they carried on longer than any other delegation. So we are having an effect in Texas, and it's because of what you say, going towards the lower guys on the totem pole, and we're working our way up. But just because we're going after this guy down here doesn't mean we can't go after this guy at the same time.
Well, what I'm trying to say is consolidate your base. And if you're strapped for money, then I was trying to say, make that your focus of attention. If I'm looking at trying to, as a real estate agent, we do something called geofarming. I don't go after the neighborhood that one agent has a control over, because I'll have to spend like 3 or 4 times as much money to try and get on parity with them. So you want to consolidate, and then...
We agree with you, but what we're doing is, we made Joe Strauss spend $300,000 of his own money last time.
Jim Pitt.
Which a lot of it came from Strauss and his buddies, where he'd only spent, what, $75,000 or whatever it was, the time before that.
Part of that was redistricting too.
No. We pushed him real hard. We had feet on the streets and between Linda Bounds, running, and TJ running. We put him under a lot of heat. Frank, go ahead real quick.
All politics is local. We know that. However, to go back to a basketball analogy, we don't have a lot of time. We need to put on a full court press at all levels, because all levels of government are becoming so intertwined, because it's that old adage, follow the money. And the money starts in Washington, a lot of places, filters down to the states, to the counties, to the cities, to the school boards. And it's becoming such an intricate web that you can focus and win the local school board. You can focus and win your city council, your county commissioners. But if the state goes down, if the country goes down, you may have that little piece right. But if everything else around it goes down with it. So we focus on the local, put your emphasis there, because we're not a big, huge organization. But realize it is now so intricately connected that we have got to put on that full court press at every level, or it's all going to come down like a house of cards anyway.
Go ahead.
And to go back to your question of what we would do with the PAC, I thought I had counted 3 people that had agreed to go with billboards as opposed to all the other little spending items. Did I count that correct? You 3 people know who?
I'll take you up on
Went along with that.
Well, we also need to decide what is the focus of, so far the Tea Party's focus has been county, local first, then state. 2/3 or more of our effort spent right here. But I will tell you, since we took over the Republican Party, the county commissioners and many others disavow us in any affiliation with us. You will never see a county commissioner, a county judge, or any of the real judges at our Republican Party meetings.
Except for Paul Perry.
Except for Paul Perry. I was going to make that one exception.
You see them.
And more during election season, you'll see the sheriff and a few others.
Go after Strauss. He is a money man. He is a pivot point in the state
Right.
legislature.
He's one we'd love to, but we don't have the strength. Now, what you also need to be aware of, that this PAC fits into, is the Tea Parties are aligning themselves statewide. Like I told you last time, make no mistake, Tea Parties killed Cisco.
Yep.
It's not quite over yet. We've still got to get him in the regions. But Tea Parties killed Cisco. We had a lot of help. But who organized, who got it up and running, who went down there? We did. And we can be effective at it.
I use the wrong name, go after Pitts.
Yeah, we will go.
Pitt, I'm sorry.
Actually, for the people in this room, and it's probably, it's not even an open secret anymore, is it?
No, you can talk.
Pitts is the #1 target in the state of Texas among Tea Parties.
That's Tea Parties across the state now that have come together. They've identified Jim Pitts as the #1 target.
He's one of the most beatable candidates, and he's also, from what I've been told from several people who are pretty up there, like Michael Sullivan, he's the 5th most powerful man in the state of Texas. I mean, he's in charge of the purse strings.
He
So.
controls the
I'm sorry, that's really not, I misnamed Pitts.
So-
Rouse.
Good. Well, we needed some kind of consensus, and we need to put it together by August, and we need to start contributing into the PAC to this, and decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Our focus is limited billboards about Pitts and helping local candidates get elected. Putting some of those things up that they can't do themselves, but at the same time, going to Austin and manning the barricades. Because Penny will tell you, and that'll help, some of the stuff that came down, and those of you that were here last month, some of the legislation that came down through here is just, beyond terrible. You might as well think you're in Massachusetts. It was that bad. It was really that bad. 96 Republicans, and I'll bet you 40 of them are rhinos. So go ahead. Then I'll get off this.
If you guys are going for local candidates too at the county level, I know, I would obviously love to help, but our problem is more with Judge Bush because she's been kind of doing poor leadership. I would like to request you guys really focus on getting her changed out, and they're handpicked. If she doesn't run, they're handpicking somebody to run.
Well, we need a candidate.
Yeah, and I would really like to see you guys focus on that.
We need a candidate to run against.
Well, and whoever runs against Judge Bush, we want to support them because any change will be a change for the better.
Not their handpicked one, though. We gotta be careful.
We've already got one candidate already.
Yeah, but they're gonna handpick somebody to run against her too. If she does not against her, but if she does not run, they're gonna handpick a candidate.
They always do.
Yeah.
Nothing different.
Was I handpicked? No.
So let's get
He's
back.
handpicked, not handpicked.
Let's get
So
back
I
to
still
the.
say go back to the billboards and go back to Pitts.
Okay.
That's the most bang for your buck.
So what I'll need is there's only 3 people on the PAC board right now. We're authorized 7. I need 4 people who have time and talent that can help us do different things. Marketing, billboards, arranging for
Pass the
buses.
clipboard.
Arranging for buses to, Austin, things like that. We'll take the names afterwards. But we want to know who you are and that you're willing to do it. Plus, we need your money. This is your PAC. This is not something we just dreamed up and are jamming down your throats. This was intended to support local candidates and our efforts in Austin. Pure and simple. Questions, comments? And we only got $3,000 in it after almost a year.
I got one comment real quick. How many people here have ever heard the term a Cuban assault? Apparently no one.
What?
A Cuban assault.
Heard it, I can't place it.
For those who don't know, when Cuba was taken over many, many years ago, it was done by 3 men on one base. Inside was about 3,000 men. Outside was 3 snipers. All they did, 2 o'clock in the morning, one of them would go out, get about 300 yards away, and take a pot shot at the side of the building. Everybody wakes up, the alarms go off, everybody's roused up and ready to go. And he'd walk back. 8 o'clock in the morning, another one would go out, do the same thing. This went on for 2 weeks. They never shot anybody. They opened those front doors, they laid all their guns down, and they all walked out because they were tired. They hadn't slept in 2 weeks. couldn't get food in or out, there was nothing they could do. As a former private military contractor, I learned about this and actually doing it. And I found that it can work on both sides. Sometimes it's not a matter, as he said, being a guerrilla force over against a large one. It's not a matter of how strong you are, it's where you put your attack at. If you can hit somebody in the soft spot repeatedly, such as, and I'm not saying we're going to do this with the PAC or anything, but let's say where Judge Bush lives. If we get a billboard in that area and put up an explanation of, did you know that your sitting Ellis County judge did this? That's going to wear at her so badly. That's doing the work for us. That can affect enough people just by watching it and going, hey, is she really doing that? Oh wait, she lives in my neighborhood. Let me go ask her. Little attacks over a broad area can do just as much damage as a full force coming headstrong into something. That's right.
Political guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep moving here.
Just one quick comment, I keep hearing this analogy of the guerrillas going up against the big machine. How many patriots were there in the Revolutionary War?
3%.
Defeating how many of an organized, heretofore undefeated army? We can do this, and it doesn't matter if it's one of us.
It's doable, but it takes us getting out there and doing something, and what I was thinking about when you were talking is, we can't just sit here and talk about this stuff. There's got to be action. We've got to walk those neighborhoods. We've got to knock on those doors. We've got to hand out those postcards. We've got to talk to these people. I did it last election, and I'll tell you what, I had a blast with it. And not everybody was on board with it, but you'd be surprised how many people invited me in and wanted to talk. If we got this many people in this room to do that, you think we could make a difference? I guarantee you we can. But we can't do it sitting here talking about it. Now, Jimmy wants to, if we're talking about what we can do, Jimmy's got some ideas for us.
Jimmy always has some ideas.
I have a dream. My dream is this. There's times when we need to go to Austin. Now, Penny had a group, a pretty good size of a group, and they went to Austin and they made a dent. Now, there's times when we all need to go to Austin too. But we never do hardly. And we need to have a leader. But my dream is Penny tell us, hey, we need to get down there. And so we find a friend that rents little buses our size, however many are going. That gives us a good deal on a little bus. And that's something we can strategize in all the way from Waxahachie to Austin. Have fun, get down there, and make a dent. I'm over that, but Penny, we can do that, can't we? And let's do that as soon as something comes up. I mean, something comes up every day. We can't go down there every day, but when big things come up. The other thing, did y'all like Shane?
Yeah.
You know, I saw, who was the guy that played Shane in the movies?
Alan Ladd.
I saw Alan Ladd today on the movie and reminded, Shane, come back, Shane. Y'all remember that? I know, I couldn't win an Academy Award on that. Okay. The other thing, I was proud of all of you all. When the suspected IRS power outage took place, and it took place, and then I looked up and it came back on, and nobody had escaped out of here. So y'all are a brave bunch.
Well, Jimmy,
Yeah.
Henry and I were wondering how many pistols were half drawn when the lights went out.
We probably don't want to know. But anyway, I'll just be honest with you. Tea Party is not that well thought of out in the community. I'm sorry. We're the right kind of people, and we're concerned with type A's, I guess, almost all of us. But we're not well thought of. I mean, we're suspected. Some of them are afraid. They're afraid if they come down here and join us, the IRS is going to be right on them. We're kind of the type, well, come on, IRS.
Right.
But nevertheless, we need to do some PR work. And the way we're going to do that, letters to the editor are wonderful. Now, if you don't want your name, now, Neil White down at the Daily Life, he kind of requires that you put your name on, say, an email.
But if you don't want to do that for whatever reason, and if whatever reason it is, it's a good reason, send it in to us. And we will put a name on it. It won't be yours if you don't want it. But we need some good letters to the editor. And if you can get Neil or the Ennis Daily News, it's part of the Daily Light too. Ennis Daily News, it's been over there a long time. He's into sports, not into the editorial, but anyway. But who would be the best person over there to send a letter to?
Editor at ennisdailynews.com.
Okay, now Neil is neil.white at Waxahachie.com, I believe. That, Texas has a TX on it. We need all of us. We can all write letters. All of you are concerned and know the issues. I mean, you wouldn't be here. You're not down here. I wonder what those people at Tea Party are doing. None of you came down here with that in mind. Let's do some letters to the editor. They print them in a Daily Light, and I guess the Ennis Daily News would love to have some, wouldn't it?
Sometimes they did make a plea not too long ago in one of their opinion pieces, asking for people to send letters. They print them off, and I think that's just because most people don't send them anything.
Well, here's the deal. Now, I noticed us, Tea Party people, we get up and we speak all day and all night. We need to quit that. We need to get what we need to say cut down to real short little bursts. And we need to get it out and sit down and let everybody else have a shot at it. And I know everything that we say is supposedly important, but we need to know how to be short and sweet, whether we're behind the mic or whether we're writing a letter to the editor. Because people won't read a good old long one.
Put it in the form of a question.
No more than 200 words.
Put your point in the form of a question to make people think and respond.
Well, first of all, if you just be yourself, people around here